Ready? Hi, it's Drilling Alan here. I just finished experimenting with this magnesium rod fastened with a hose clamp to an electrode to come out for the negative side, and then taking some copper wire around some foam. You wrap the foam around the magnesium wire, put some copper around the foam, and you get about a 1.5 volt battery. Try different configurations, and we've got a wall clock running right now, ticking away. You can see the hands going right now. If I disconnect one of these leads, you'll see it stop. See, there it goes, stop. Hook it back up. And there it goes again. These three are hooked in parallel because there wasn't enough juice from just one or two of them to run the clock battery. This one is, I use a 10 gauge wire. This is 18 gauge. Yeah, 18 gauge wire. It's much smaller. Quite a few. There's about 15 coils, whereas this one only has 6. And I get the same amount of power out of this one as I do with these three. And this one just has, I just put some foam in there, spacer, to keep the metal magnesium rod from hitting the copper coil on the outside. And it seems to work just fine. When I accidentally shorted it out by touching the center electrode to the copper, it stopped working. Let me show you. I'll move my electrodes over here to this one. Let's see. I just have another 10 gauge wire for the electrode on the middle one, the magnesium, and hooking to the outer copper coil here. And there it goes again. Let's see this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's almost 6 full turns on there. And then on these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15. Yeah, about 15 turns. I didn't really count them. All of them are about 1.5, 1.6 volts. Very low amps. My amp meter is not reading amps for some reason. I think I burned it out due to my Bedini experimentation. If you measure a brand new battery, Duracell battery, it's 1.6 volts. This one's actually measuring 1.7 volts right now. Let me turn it on. I'm going to come up here, Christian, and show this right here. 1.5 volts. Okay. So that's 1.5. And it's running the clock. I can also get it to run my little old clock, not as efficient probably. Seems like this one ran a little easier. It's a newer clock, probably has a more efficient circuitry. So I'll disconnect the wires in the back here. I just took the battery out, hooked it up with electrodes. I'll disconnect the electrodes here, and pretty slippery. Hook this up to the back here, negative, positive. Let's see. No, not running for some reason. It was running earlier. This one seems to take a little more current, and just right on the threshold of where it will work. I'm going to try something. Keep filming there, Christian. I'm going to add some water. It's not quite filled up all the way. Yeah, there it goes. Just need a little, the rest of those electrodes covered up. Do you see it's running now? And now let's check the voltage going across here with that extra water in there. 1.57. So I'm guessing that the variables here, that the sponge, one of the important factors here is that the electrode needs to be exposed as much as possible. You don't want to have the foam tight against the magnesium rod. These are really quite light. It's about 1.5 ounces. Just, you know, it's really super light. I'd say that this battery's heavier than this magnesium rod. Anyway, you want to have as much surface area exposed to the water as possible. You want to have your foam loose around here. And just my experiment here shows that you don't have to have foam all the way around it. And that the number of turns is probably going to be a factor. I don't know if the distance between the copper and the magnesium is going to be crucial. The type of foam is probably not important, just that you have a gap between the foam and the between the copper coil and the magnesium. I'm guessing that the gauge of the wire is a factor here because of the 18 gauge wires with more turns over here. We had to have 3 in parallel to get the same current to run the battery as just one with this 10 gauge wire with only 6 turns. You notice that there's bubbles forming. That's probably just, you know, bubbles will form on things when they're in water. But it could be also part of the process. You get some reduction and oxidation going on. Not sure what's going on there. If you put a seal on the lid, like if we were to put this mason jar lid on here and put maybe some silicone around the leads, it would keep it from evaporating and the water does not go down. And you could go 9 months, supposedly, according to Stephen Dickens, who came up with this combination. If you go to our website through a shortcut link, watercell.info will take you to the plans of how to do this. It's really easy. If you had the parts of kindergartner to do it and could afford it, these metal rods cost $3 each. You can get 5 for $15. And you get $3 each. And then everything else you just have laying around the house. Of course, you might not have hose clamps. I think these were about 18 cents each. And copper wire. You know, I bought this. This is $1.49 from. I think I got it from Radio Shack for this wire that did. I'd used it for something else, and I wound 3 batteries, and then I got some left over probably for another 1 or 2 more. And then foam, of course, you get kicking around whatever you have at home. Just something to space between the copper wire and the magnesium rod. And so anyway, we're having a contest so you can come up with the highest voltage and amperage, get the highest wattage from this combination using this rod. You have to use the same size of rod nominally. They don't come exactly the same size. If you stack them up, there was about 1/8 of an inch difference from the highest one to the smallest one in the set of 5 that I got. It's not an accurate cutting regimen that they have, the manufacturer that's sending these out. But you know, they're nominally the same size, and so it needs to be replicatable. It needs to use just plain tap water. There's no electrolyte in here. We don't want to have to add salt. Apparently, if you add salt, you do get more current, but it also eats the magnesium away a lot faster. And it may not just be a function of because you're using more current, so the rod's being depleted faster. It may be a matter of corrosion and other principles as well. So it needs to be just plain tap water or distilled water. It needs to use copper and magnesium, and with a combination of copper, the number of turns, whoever can figure out the best way to get energy out of this, is going to win a contest a month from the time that we post these plans at watercell.info. So join us there. Sterling Allen signing out for pesweekly.com. Thanks. Phone, and you get about a 1.5 volt battery. Try different configurations, and we've got a wall clock running right now, ticking away. Electrode to come out for the negative side, and then taking some copper wire around some foam. You wrap the foam around the magnesium wire, put some copper around the... Ready? Hi, it's Sterling Allen here. I just finished experimenting with this magnesium rod fastened with a hose clamp to an... you can see the hands going right now. If I disconnect one of these leads, you'll see it stop. See, there it goes, stop. Hook it back up. And there it goes again. These three are hooked in parallel because there wasn't enough juice from just one or two of them to run the clock battery